There is zero appetite in the Senate right now to get rid of the filibuster. This is something Trump has been calling for a long time, including in his first term. He started really calling for it again as the shutdown was dragging on. But in reality, those calls only really facilitated the fact that Republicans felt even more of a need to try to resolve this stalemate in another way. And that is ultimately what happened. They did give some minor concessions to Democrats. They agreed to allow a floor vote in the Senate on extending Affordable Care Act subsidies. They also, along with the White House, agreed to give workers back pay. That's something that's guaranteed in this deal, as well as reversing the layoffs that were initially instituted in the beginning of the shutdown. So that's ultimately the package that passed this evening in the House. But in terms of the filibuster, it is not going anywhere anytime soon. We'll see how long that lasts in future years, especially as some of these older sort of institutionalist members like Mitch McConnell get replaced with younger members. And by the way, this is not just a Republican debate. Democrats have debated this as well. Whenever a party gets a trifecta in Washington, this conversation comes up. For now, though, the filibuster is safe.
Back to the ACA, or as the president was putting it, Obamacare, he characterized it as a disaster from day one. I mean, he didn't mince any words there at all. I know that we've got this handshake deal, that there's going to be a debate on the floor over the ACA subsidies. But it doesn't sound like that's at all what the president's thinking here. Is there a framework that you've seen, or is there some sort of legislation to overhaul health care in a way that I believe he said something along the lines of like wanting the money to go directly to the people as opposed to the insurance companies? Like, is there a path for that, or are those just words right now?
It's complicated. I would say as far as the ACA subsidies, it looks very unlikely at this moment anyway that something is going to be able to pass both chambers and also be signed by Trump. I was really struck by just how hard he went after Obamacare and the subsidies, suggesting that there is no compromise when it comes to extending those tax credits, which are expiring at the end of the year. Nonetheless, Democrats in the Senate, they get to choose what bill they put on the floor in December as part of this handshake agreement. They are in active conversations right now with Republicans about what could potentially win over some of these Republicans, whether that's changing the eligibility requirements, lowering the income caps. They are trying to find a solution that would get enough Republicans on board. But when you have President Trump coming out so strongly, like he did just moments ago, saying enough with this Obamacare madness, I think was the direct quote, it makes it very, very hard to pass something. And that's not even talking about the House, where Speaker Mike Johnson at a press conference just an hour ago really dismissed the idea of extending those Obamacare subsidies. Instead, they are starting to talk about alternative proposals, like, for example, health savings accounts, where they try to put money in people's pockets so they can pick their own health insurance plans. But even that is complicated. And we were talking to health experts about just how viable something like that is. And really, it would dismantle the entire system. So there's a lot of questions. I do think, though, that the ACA subsidies are not looking good in terms of being expired at the end of this year.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app, or watch live on our YouTube channel.